Mr. Soft Touch from 1949 was an excellent crime film starring Glenn Ford as a nightclub owner who gets mixed up with the mob and, while he's in hiding, discovers some unexpected romance with Evelyn Keyes. It's an interesting film blending crime, comedy, and romance set around a Christmas time frame, and I really enjoyed this film. Thanks to my friend Florida Gregg for the suggestion. I'll give an overview of the film and then offer some closing thoughts. Well, what a great start to the film. You have Glenn Ford's character, Joe Miracle, is being pursued in a car chase. He escapes by making it to a drawbridge, gets across, then flees into San Francisco. San Francisco seems to be the setting of so many of these old crime films. You think with an introduction like this that we're going straight into a solid crime film, but not necessarily. Well, the story here is that Glenn Ford plays the character Joe Miracle, and his character has returned from service in the Second World War to discover that the nightclub that he owned was taken over by the mob, and that his friend and partner with the business had been murdered. So in true crime film style, he robs his old place of $100,000 with plans to take the money and get out of the country as quick as he can. So he's on the run from the police, and after a brief car chase, he ditches his car and makes it to the apartment of his friends, Victor and Clara. Now, he plans to get out of town the next day, so he gets a ticket, but the ship won't leave until tomorrow. And wouldn't you know it, the police show up to search the apartment. Now, Joe thinks they're after him, but they're actually looking for his friend Victor, who earlier had been making a lot of noise. He's an abusive guy. Well, Joe gets the idea that going into lockup for the night might be a safe place to just kind of hide out. Definitely not my first thought, but that's what he thinks, and he gets himself arrested in Victor's place. But wouldn't you know it, when he's getting booked, there's a well-meaning social worker named Jenny, played here by Evelyn Keyes, who believes Joe might not be all that bad after all and that he can be reformed. So she arranges that he will come with her to the settlement house that she works at until he can get his behavior under control. Now, at the house, he calls Clara and asks her to bring him his stash of money. Now, while he's there, we see a kind of a funny scene of a bunch of the kids that stay there trying to hustle him for money. I mean, come on. They should know better than to try to rip off Glenn Ford.
11. Hey, wait a minute. Hey, these some crooked dice, honey?
Oh, no.
Shoot the works? Yeah. But hit the wall, huh? Yep. Blow on them, warm them up.
They're warm enough. Shoot.
Y'all through, fellas?
Now, the money that he takes from the kids was supposed to be for a Christmas tree, but later, in secret, he returns the money. I mean, we kind of see that behind the scenes he's a well-meaning character. Well, Joe's wife shows up, it's Clara, and gives him the money that he can basically hold on to and hide away until he's going to leave. Now, the boys, meanwhile, thinking all their money is gone, they go to the local park and cut down a tree. It's actually a pretty funny scene, and, the cops, of course, notice it, and they take off after them, and after they get back to the settlement home, Jenny convinces the cops, don't press charges on these poor kids. Now, Joe takes his money, and he stashes it away while decorating. He kind of hides it in an overhead vent. But while coming down from this ladder, he accidentally smashes the piano that belongs to this place. Now, Jenny's getting to this point of really not liking or trusting Joe, but then discovers that he was the one who had secretly donated the money for the tree. Well, knowing that a local piano place is actually a front for a bookie operation, Joe goes to the place and cons them into sending a replacement piano to the settlement house. Everyone seems grateful. They don't really know where the piano came from. And Joe turns on a little sugar with Jenny. Now, at this point, we get the idea that she still doesn't know what to think of him, but maybe she's warming up a little bit.
What I wanted to say is thanks.
Oh, don't thank me. Now, if I do anything for you, it's just because I'm trying to get you to like me. You know, like you do with those kids.
Only you're not a kid.
That's right. I get you to like me, I'll make use of it someday. Miss Jones, how come you're not married?
How come you get so personal?
Well, you ask me personal questions. How come you don't smile more often?
Good night.
Good night.
So it's a little later in the day and it's time to call it a night. So Joe goes to set up his bed. And, you know, of course, all the sheets are ratty and filled with holes. And, hey, is that Jeff Bridges? Well, there's a funny scene as Joe tries to settle into his rickety, broken old bed. So a little bit later, the character Henry Earlybird shows up. He's played here by actor John Ireland. He's a great tough guy actor. He usually plays the heavy in old films like this. Now here he's a reporter and he's looking for Joe and asks Jenny if she's seen him. She won't reveal anything yet. Now one of the guys discovers Joe's gun and brings it to Jenny. So she's starting to get a little bit suspicious of him. So Joe goes to talk with her, and she mentions this bird character that had come around. She really wants to know who Joe really is. She knows he's mixed up in crime, and she's kind of cold to him and really wants him to leave, knowing that he's just using this place as a hideout. She knows he's up to no good. And she shares with him, that she grew up in an abusive household. She doesn't trust guys like this. In fact, she even had lost her hearing from being struck by her dad and wants men like him out of her life. Now, they're interrupted at this point with a delivery of gifts, towels and blankets and so on from a local hotel. And this was, of course, all arranged secretly by Joe. So Joe goes to his room, and it's here that the Henry Bird character confronts him. And we find out, he's a reporter, and he wants to find out what happened with this crime organization taking money from his business. Gives him a little more information about what happened while he was gone, revealing that his partner had been run through a rock crusher. Ew. And this crime syndicate wanted his club, but since Joe was gone in the military at the time, they killed his friend. Well, Joe doesn't want to deal with this guy, so he leaves. But we can tell we haven't seen the last of him. So Joe decides he needs to get out of this place and just go somewhere else. So he leaves, but he wants to speak with Jenny first. So he sees that she's left and follows her home and carries her bag. It's here that we realize that he does care for her, and he pleads for her to come along with him as he's ready to leave town. He sees that she's living in poverty as she's bringing blankets to an older man and formula for a baby. He's about to leave when he notices that the mob people are outside. They're ready to come after him. So he hurriedly gives her the stash of money when the mobsters finally catch up with him. One of them, the character Rainey, is played by actor Ted DeCorsia. He's one of those excellent tough guy actors I've seen in a bunch of films like Crime Wave from 1953. They want their money, so they bring him back to the settlement house and tell him, go get the money for us. So he is trapped and surrounded. He's got to turn over the money, and with only 15 minutes left in the film, I don't want to give much more away. What will happen? Will he get the money and return it, or will he and Jenny escape? It's an exciting ending with some great twists, and to be honest, it's an ending that sort of leaves you hanging, uncertain. So I'll stop the summary here and let you check it out for yourself. So some closing thoughts about the film. Mr. Soft Touch was produced by Columbia Pictures in 1949. It was actually directed by two different directors. Henry Levin, who also directed Glenn Ford in the film Convicted from 1950, as well as director Gordon Douglas, who was known for crime films and westerns, as well as the Our Gang comedies. I reviewed his film Them before, the one with the giant ants. Great stuff. This was the sixth and final time that Columbia would pair Glenn Ford with Evelyn Keyes. And I really think they had a great chemistry together here. I have to admit, when I first heard the title of this film, Mr. Soft Touch, Made me think of the name of a hand moisturizer or even a massage parlor. But no, it's actually an interesting blend of crime film with comedy, a little romance set around Christmas time. And even includes what felt like a touch of Angels with Dirty Faces, the James Cagney film, where the formula is the tough guy situated with a gang of rough but well-meaning kids, kind of showing them the ropes. In this case, we've got Glenn Ford's character teaching these kids not to assume that a stranger is a complete sucker when it comes to gambling. And this type of mixed film where it's all over the place might not be for everyone, but I love it. But I understand people might be looking for more consistency in the narrative. And to me, it felt like this one was just a little bit of everything. But honestly, I'm never disappointed with a Glenn Ford film, especially if he's playing the tough guy in a crime film like this one. I try not to spoil endings of films, and I won't tell you how this one ends, but it does sort of leave you hanging with, well, basically, what happened? So, see for yourself. Glenn Ford is always a favorite actor of mine in these old films, and he does a great job here as the guy in hiding who maybe gets more than he expected. I've reviewed a number of his films on this channel, and he's always great. I've been thinking of how Eddie Mueller of TCM used the term gravitas to describe him, basically how he has matured as an actor here, and I think that really fits. He really seems established and at home in roles like this one. He always manages to believably keep his cool when dealing with sketchy reporters or tough mob guys. And I liked his chemistry here with Evelyn Keyes. She's a great actress I've seen before in films like 99 River Street. At first, she seems to be the serious social worker, just giving Ford's character a chance, but she warms nicely to him. Knowing now that they've been in several Columbia Pictures together, I'm really kind of curious to check some of these out. It was also noteworthy seeing some of the supporting actresses at the settlement house. There was Beulah Bondi and Clara Blandick. Beulah Bondi was from films like It's a Wonderful Life, and I actually saw her recently in the Christmas film Remember the Night with Barbara Stanwyck. Clara Bandick, of course, played Auntie M in The Wizard of Oz. Auntie M, it's a twister! Now, near the end of the film, Joe confronts the big crime boss, Barney Teener, played by Roman Bonin. Bonin died of a heart attack 5 months before the film's release. He's a good actor. I've seen him in other films like The Strange Loves of Martha Ivers with Barbara Stanwyck. So finally, I wanted to make a shout out to a YouTube channel. It's Classic Robb's Glenn Ford channel. I have it linked below. He really does a great job with preserving films, TV appearances, and specials of Glenn Ford. And his channel is just packed with so much great content. Just speaking as someone who watches and reviews old films, I know that many times it can be challenging to find old media. Not everything is streaming or easy to find online, so I'm grateful for channels like that one that do such a great job of preserving old media. So go check it out. It's some great stuff of Glenn Ford. So that's Mr. Soft Touch from 1949. It's an enjoyable crime, comedy, romance film set around the Christmas holiday with Glenn Ford and Evelyn Keyes. It's a great film. It's worth checking out. So I try to end my reviews with something silly or interesting, so I thought this time what I would do is ask ChatGPT to write a review of Mr. Soft Touch. And I did it, and looked pretty good, except it's not accurate. It kind of made a few mistakes. I mean, Joe didn't want to join the crime syndicate or anything like that, but I thought I'd do it anyway and put a silly voice to it. So let me know what you think. That is, excuse me, a darn fine cup of coffee.
Mr. Soft Touch is a 1949 film noir starring Glenn Ford and Evelyn Keyes. The film follows the story of Joe Miracle, a former gangster who has been living an honest life for the past 5 years. When he discovers that the syndicate wants him dead for stealing from him, Joe goes into hiding and finds refuge in a settlement house run by Jenny Jones. As he hides out, Joe becomes involved in the charity work of the settlement house and finds himself falling for Jenny. The film explores themes of redemption, morality, and loyalty. As Joe struggles with his past and present, he must decide whether to do the right thing or protect himself. He is torn between his desire to stay with Jenny and his sense of duty to the syndicate. Ultimately, Joe decides to turn himself into the police, hoping that his past good deeds will help him in court.